steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to me.
There's something loose between my legs.
I don't know. Let go!
I'm heavier than a freaking boat.
Nothing you could say could make that any better.
Yeah, nobody. No more radio for the rest of the race.
I'm going home. You.
Hello and welcome to DRS FC, an F1 podcast by soccer nerds. I am a soccer nerd. I'm André Carlisle, and I am here with two other soccer nerds. Meg, a triumphant return. How are you?
The Dutch tried to keep me down, but I can't be stopped. The Dutch is another word for COVID in 2025.
Oh, I have so many things I could say, and I'm not going to. Well, glad
Dutch
you're
people,
back.
we like your cheese and your orange, and I think it's cool that you can bike to your circuit. And I hope you will forgive me and not block me from being able to podcast.
I was going to say, it sounds like they did succeed for quite a bit in keeping you down, but I'm glad that you're back. Deepti, how are you?
I'm great. Yeah. I'm excited for this race in particular because it's a fast one. So, yeah, just ready to talk about it. Happy that we're getting races on back-to-back weekends and there's no breaks really.
Yeah, I'm excited. And no foreign countries trying to hold you down?
Well, the one that I'm currently in, that's to be determined if they're going to help me out or not.
Fair enough. Yeah, I feel like we're all a target of a particular country at the moment. Not going to get into that. All right, here's what we are here to do. We are here to preview Monza at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. That's what the circuit is officially called.
Nationale. I'm sorry. I had to do it one time. I had to do it one time.
Yep.
There it is. It is 5.793 kilometers long. That is 3.6 miles. Cars will do 53 laps in the Grand Prix around this track. The lap record is an old one. It was set in 2004 by Rubens Barrichello. Wow, interesting. That lap record was 1 minute, 29.046 seconds. Very interesting that it has stood for over 20 years. Very, very fascinating. Meg, do you want to give us a little bit more history of the track?
So, Monza as a track was originally built in 1922, and it hosted its first F1 Grand Prix in 1950. It is an OG. It is one of the few remaining OGs left on the schedule. It is known as the Temple of Speed, and it is informally known as Ferrari's home track. And you will certainly see a lot of Italian flags around the course this weekend. It was developed by the Milan Automobile Club, and they have used a lot of layouts throughout the years. They used to have one that had some serious banking, and famously Monza is where a lot of people have died. And so, which is very sad. I don't mean to laugh at that, but for once we have a track that is like, what if we made some changes so people didn't die quite so much? And so they removed the banking in the 1970s, and since then, we'll talk in a second about some of the track characteristics. There's still some tricky stuff, but there has certainly not been the level of violence, I would say, throughout the course.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you look up what the Wikipedia kind of history of the track, you're like, oh, yeah, this was a really dangerous one.
Yeah, it was a gnarly back in the day, I have to imagine. Your ticket included some maiming and injury pretty much every year.
Yeah, I was going to say, there are some cars going off the track, going into crowds and stuff. Like, yeah, it sounded like a very dangerous situation. So it is no longer that, thankfully. Also, the Temple of Speed. I don't know if there's a better track nickname than that. Like, also, that is just...
Doesn't it sound like some sort of like F1 Indiana Jones? Like there should
really
be like
does.
some sort of temple.
Temple of Doom.
Yeah. The other thing to
Charles
know...
Leclerc and the Temple of Speed.
Yeah, right? The other thing to know about Monza is that it was the third like purpose-built motorsports track. So it is pretty revered. Indianapolis is the other very famous one that is purpose-built before it. But it's pretty cool that it's still standing and still part of the process.
It really is. And Indianapolis and Monza, I'm sure they share several similarities.
What is
Deepti.
it? Alabama and in England.
Alabama and England. Yeah. I love those. Deepti, what happened at this race in 2024?
Yes. So Monza being the Temple of Speed and being in Italy and having so much history and such like this interesting aura around it, some unexpected things can happen. Last year was one of those things. Lando got pole position in qualifying. Oscar was second. The McLarens were very fast that weekend. Charles, this is significant, got P4. However,
Woo!
during the race, what happened? Well, Lando was fine off the starting line, held his lead. George, who was, I believe, P3, he locked up, so he lost his spots immediately. Oscar basically overtook Lando without Lando expecting it at a place that you normally don't overtake. And this was on lap 1. And so Lando got caught off guard, and that forced him to lose some momentum. And Charles also overtook him at the same moment. So in that time, Oscar went to P1, Charles to P2, Lando was down to 3rd. Then it was all down to strategy, and Ferrari actually did something good for once, and they got lucky. And Charles managed to do a one-stop, and I think he was one of the few who did the one-stop during that race, and that worked. And he won in front of the Tifosi, and I believe it's Ferrari's first win in Monza at home since 2019. So the final podium was Charles Leclerc P1, Oscar Piastri P2, Lando Norris P3, and then Carlos Sainz was 4th, Lewis Hamilton was 5th. And there was only one DNF, and that was Yuki Tsunoda.
And one last thing I just want to mention really quickly. When we look towards the past, this is the 50th anniversary of Niki Lauda's championship with Ferrari. And so Ferrari will be running a special livery. And I just want to, I'm going to call my co-host out here. When I go to the Ferrari page on Instagram, it shows you like your friends who have commented, and I just want to read what Andre's comment was. They're doing this really nice, like, let's do a Monza 2025 livery to honor our beloved Niki Lauda. Andre goes, hideous, but whatever, just please get on the podium.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to call you out,
feelings.
Andre, but that's every Ferrari fan in its comments right now.
I was in my feelings. I'm like, I don't care about your livery. Like, honestly, I like the reasoning behind it, but also I actually think it looks gross. These cars aren't really designed to have like a top like part of it because they're so flat and low. So yeah, I don't like how it looks. Just get on the damn podium. So I feel. And thank you for that. That was unexpected. Deepti, thank you for going through what happened in 2024, because quite honestly, even though I was putting in the lineup, I was like, what happened in this race last year? I was like, oh, that's right. That was Oscar showing everybody, oh no, it's not all about Lando with McLaren. I can do something too. And that's when he just snuck past his teammate, and Lando said he wasn't expecting it. And it was like, well, I guess you better expect it now, buddy. Like, Oscar's here.
Exactly. And that was just a taste of what was to come, and we're seeing that this season, obviously. That was just a preview.
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone's got to expect it now.
Oh, right. Might not matter now, but hey, at least he'll be at least he'll be expecting it. All right, let's get into the track likes and dislikes. I'll run through just a few notable things about the track. Has 2 DRS zones, one on the start-finish straight as usual, and then kind of adjacent to that on the back end of the track, there is a long straight that leads up to the final chicane, not the final corner, but the final chicane. And so you do have 2 DRS zones. The track is essentially, they call it the temple of speed because it is the track where the car will stay at full throttle the longest. So some math nerds have done their math nerd thing and decided and told me, and I'm going to repeat it on the podcast, that drivers are, for the most part, full throttle for 75% of the lap. That's a lot. That's almost like NASCAR-y a little bit. This is a track with a series of straights that are interrupted by a handful of chicanes, just a couple of them on either side of the track, about 3 of them. And then, of course, some famous corners, including one that I love called the Parabolica, which is what happened just before the main straight. And if you play video games, I'm back to that. I'm back on that again. That corner sucks. I hate that corner so much because it's hard to carry no speed around there.
An inanimate object.
I am. I'm really mad about this corner, especially in video games, because it's hard to perfect. And because it's such a fast track, if you don't get it right, it disrupts your entry into that straight, and it's no way to make it up. You can't push push the throttle down any further than it will go. And so, yeah, anyway, that's just a personal thing. Apparently, I'm not cut out to be a driver, which is why I'm talking about F1 on a podcast that I don't get paid to do. So it's fine. Meg, what do you like or not like about this track?
I think one of the things that's cool about this track, just from like a culture experience, is that this is one of the few crowds that still seems like a real crowd and not just a bunch of celebrities. Like, no offense to people who go to races, because they've just priced out the average fan a lot. And it seems like Monza still really wants the diehard Italian fans. You will see a lot of hand motioning. You will hear a lot of the Italian national anthem. And so I think, like, culturally, it's just cool to still see a race. Now, I will flag this. It is Italian pride, but not Italian nationalism, which is what we prefer, right? We do not want it to turn into the other, and so thankfully that hasn't happened at Monza previously, and hopefully that continues. From a track perspective, I think all of us are nerds who like when cars go fast. We prefer car go fast to car go slow, and so Monza is one of the few places where these cars, you really can tell how fast they're going. Particularly the one that's always fun, like, this sounds so silly, but it is fun to watch pit stops at Monza because cars are going so quickly past, and you do have to try to pass when you get out of the pit stops, and so that makes it really entertaining in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, we do say vroom vroom for a reason. We like when they go vroom vroom instead of just vroom. Uh, Deepti, your thoughts on the track?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of reiterate what you guys said. This track is fast because there's so many long straights. There's not, it's not twisty and windy, not a lot of undulation, as they say. Uh, but I like they call it the Curve di Lesmo. It's 2 corners actually, but the first one of that is a blind corner, and so that one's like they go in really fast and it's kind of banking. So that's one of the fastest corners. And then the second one of those might be one of the most important points because this track you can't like because there's so many straights and there's not actually a lot. You would think with the straights you can overtake a lot, but you really can't overtake much on the circuit. And that the second Curve di Lesmo is one of the places that can lead you into a good overtaking move. But on the flip side, if you make a mistake there, it can also be a place where you like spin out really easily. So it's a fun track. It's a fast track. It used to be a very dangerous track. It's still quite dangerous. Like crashing is, I wouldn't say common, but it is possible, of course. And because of the whole full throttle thing, it's kind of one of the tracks where engine failure could easily happen. And yeah, might be too soon to talk about engine failure for some certain papaya fans, but that is something to think about. I don't know how many, if any, besides Lando's car are coming with new power units, but that is also something to watch and see because the whole thing is about who can go vroom vroom on this track.
Yeah, you mentioned crashing. The thing that I think people really need to be aware of, especially at the start of the race, is that first chicane. You go into one of the longest straights, into one of the slowest chicanes on the calendar, and the cars really have to bunch up there. These are giant cars, and if they try to go in there 3 wide, it's not going to work, but nobody's going to want to concede positions. I just feel like you're going to see you're going to see some coming together there, maybe even on the first lap. I would almost, I'm not a betting person, but I'd almost feel like putting money on that because there's just no way.
And they've changed the track a bit over the years, but more so the surfacing. That used to be a bit more bumpy, and like actually the bumps is like if you hit the bump wrong or something, or if you don't brake on time or whatever it is, like that's where you can see cars kind of like catch air and catch flight and can fly off. And for those of you who watched the F1 movie, that was a spot where JP like flew off, and so it is like that was from historical happenings. That wasn't just like a freak accident, like that has happened before. So those bumps are not there, but it is still a place where cars can go off the track for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do a spoiler alert, okay? If you haven't seen the movie by now, I haven't, and I'm fine with it, so it's fine. Clears it for me. Let's see. I'm trying to actually, before we get to tire talk, let me just do the weather real quick because there's not a whole lot to report here. The weather looks like it's going to be quite nice. It's going to be a little bit warm, so Mercedes, be careful with your rear tires. But Friday, it's 81 degrees is the high. Obviously, this is Fahrenheit. I am in the U.S. Apologies if you do Celsius. Potential morning showers, but really not expected on Friday. Again, this is AccuWeather, so we'll see. They were pretty accurate for Zandvoort, so hopefully this is right. Saturday, 81 degrees and clear, and Sunday, 82 degrees and clear. Maybe a little bit more cloud cover on Saturday than Sunday. So, but expect to see plenty of the sun. Expect to see it into the 80s for these races. So, okay, now Deepti, tire talk.
Yes, tire talk. Tire talk's not super exciting this time. It's the same tires as last year. The C3, C4, and C5. That is the hard, medium, and soft in that order. I guess they're not really hoping to change anything. Teams will do either a one stop or a two stop. Meg was talking about the pit lane in this one. The pits are actually some of the longest in terms of how much time you lose when you're in the pit. And so teams will want to try to do a one stop. Funnily enough, Lance Stroll did a 3-stop last year. So, teams do different things. And but yeah, one stop is ideal. 3, 4, 5. The track should, each year it evolves year over year, and there shouldn't be as much graining also year over year. So the tires should last a bit longer. The one stop should be possible.
And now to the track shape. Meg?
I'm so sorry to do this to everybody. I have to tell you that some behind the scenes info. So we have a little rundown for the show, and I just have to tell you what I wrote. Not to be gross again, but I think it looks like a speculum, which is non-safe for women. And for those of you who don't know what a speculum is,
I can concur.
Just know that it's the worst part of an OBGYN appointment for most people. And, I like knowing that I don't have cancer, but I would prefer if there's another way they could figure that.
Amen. Well, I think this one looks like you could do several different things. This is like looking at the clouds and picking out multiple shapes. So the first thing that I saw, obviously, at least the way we have it oriented, I'm like, it just looks like a giant foot, maybe like a really tall NBA player or a really tall co-host like André.
Wow.
Or one of those statues that no longer exists, that it was one of the 7 wonders of the world or whatever, but all we got the feet are left.
Yeah, you have the giant feet. Also, I think it could look like a beaver sitting up, and the right side is its tail, and then you have that side and it's looking, you see a little beaver. Yeah, or I was like, okay, maybe an arm. I don't know.
You know what else it looks like?
It's a very simple shape.
In a not gross way. It looks like when people play F1 driving games, the rigs they sit in, when Max is doing all his racing.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those.
Yeah, it looks like one of those F1 chairs for sim racing. So there's a lot of ones for this shape. It's a very simple shape, so you can go a lot of ways.
I'm so glad we do this segment because I was just like, boomerang, done. But no, we got speculum, we got a foot, we got all kinds of things. So there you go. Great. So that's what the track looks like to my co-hosts. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to get into what to watch. And of course, our podium predictions, our constructors scrap predictions, who's going to finish the weekend with the most points and who's going to finish with the least points, plus our Zoomy and Gloomy Boy predictions. And of course, I will tell you when to watch everything. 3 practice sessions, no sprint. So stay tuned. All right, what to watch? We got a few things to watch. A lot of them are Ferrari related. In fact, I'll just go ahead and spoil Donald's. He has all caps, "Come on, Ferrari, comma, do something." I think that is something that we've been waiting for.
Poking.
Right? I feel like that's something we've been waiting for several weeks, and indeed months. So we'll see. But let's start with Kyle. He asks, which rookie crashes into a driver this week, and why is it Franco Colapinto? Man, the Alpine slander coming from Kyle and the Mercedes love is just relentless. But also, I don't know if he's wrong.
It would be hilarious.
He's mean, but he's
Franco
not wrong.
And Kimi crash. The Alpine rookie and the Mercedes.
Oh, Deepti, it's Italian week. We don't want the Italian to crash.
Italian week. And I know, it is Kimi's home race. More than Ferrari's home race. It's Kimi's home race.
Oh, wait.
Anyway.
I thought, is it Kimi's home race? Wasn't Wasn't
Or is
Imola
Imola Kimi's
closer?
home race? I forget.
I think
But
Imola's
either
closer
way, he's
to
Italian.
Genoa. Isn't that where he's from?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
So
isn't Imola the one that he was like right outside of famously?
yeah,
Okay,
that's the one he
you're
brought his
right. My bad.
classmates to. Yeah, so he can crash at this one.
No,
It's
he
fine.
can crash at this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully he stops doing that. That was really unfortunate. But yeah, I don't know. Franco actually looked good last weekend. You know, he beat Pierre Gasly, who was having a lot of problems. He finished dead last in the race. So that's unfortunate. I don't know if that is obviously going to be a trend. Pierre is quite good. So I don't know what was actually happening last week, but I would be surprised to see the drivers finish in that order again. But yeah, this is a lot of speed. This is a lot of adjustment for some of the rookie drivers, especially the ones who have never really encountered this track in an F1 race before. So yeah, we will see, I suppose. Also, actually, I did hear that Alex Dunn, the rookie driver for McLaren, is going to do FP1 in Oscar's car and not Lando's. He did with Lando's car a couple races ago. I don't remember exactly which one. And that's when he really got on the map for some people being like, whoa, he putting up quick times in that McLaren. So we'll see if he can repeat that performance. That'll be interesting. And not crash. It's also important. Meg, let's talk about what you want to talk about, because you're along the same lines as Ferrari, because one would expect.
Yes. What I would like to say is that I can't wait to watch the Italians lose their mind. And I particularly can't wait to watch the Italians lose their mind if someone from Ferrari wins. Friends, if you want to feel happy, please go watch when Charles Leclerc won Monza. And the call was fantastic. And the joy of all those people, I don't know. We just need more joy in this world. And I would like to think the Ferrari can give it to us. And that is where I am wrong and I'm setting myself up for failure. But I still have hope in this crazy world.
I mean, let's talk about Ferrari for a second, because first of all, I don't necessarily trust Ferrari with expectations. That is not a thing that they do or respond well to. So I'm a little bit nervous that all of this is happening. I mean, obviously, I knew it was going to. This is what happens every single time Ferrari comes, quote unquote, home. But I am concerned about that, given how poor they've been. This, of course, is a track where maybe their inability to drive the car lower, because it gets lower when you go around corners, and then it wears out its plank. Like, this is why the double disqualification in the main race happened in China. You look at that track versus Monza, and yes, you see a lot of straights, but you see a lot less tight, twisty stuff. So maybe Ferrari's car performance will be better or more closer to the peak of what it can actually do while remaining legal. So maybe this is a good thing. But again, Deepti, I'm being hopeful about Ferrari, and I don't feel good about it.
I'm falling into the trap as well. Every single time we say this. And I think, this one, they're at home. Maybe like the good vibes will come through. But we talk about toxic boyfriending, and they are doing that, and they're still succeeding at it, because I shouldn't say we're all, Kyle will yell at me for that. But a majority of us are still falling into their trap. But I don't, I don't have much more to say except, like, they're just going to do what they're going to do, and we're going to keep trying to pen after them.
Deepti's gone full, like, it doesn't matter. We're going to be here again next week being hopeful about Ferrari, and they will crush our hearts.
Exactly.
This is the life that we have signed up for. This is the life that we live. And I wish it wasn't. But I really am feeling like I want to see, both the cars disqualified or didn't finish the last race. Obviously, Lewis spun himself out on a wet track, kind of dipping a tire on wet paint. And of course, we saw Charles get hit by Kimi, which obviously wasn't his fault, but his race wasn't going spectacularly before then anyway. Was not in a podium position or a place to fight for one. So I think, I don't know, Meg, give us some hope, please. You're the Ferrari enthusiast, like the most enthusiastic Ferrari fan we have. I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan more than I'm a Ferrari fan. So, like, give us some hope.
So we had some sad news in Italy today. Giorgio Armani passed away. So we need you to do one for the Italians, Charles and Lewis. We need you to get us out of our sadness. And I think both of them have actually posted RIPs. Armani's a huge sponsor for F1 and has been a longtime sponsor specifically of Ferrari. And so it's not a surprise to see Formula One post about it, but it was still interesting nonetheless. I think the only way is up. It can get worse, but it's not likely it will. And I do think you see Lewis, when he feels really supported in races, get up and go, right? When he feels the crowd with him. You've seen it in Silverstone, you've seen it in Brazil, and I think the crowd will be exceptionally with him, and I think that could really motivate him, which is not to say that he is not trying in other races, but it just seems like that gives him an extra oomph. McLaren might not do as well around this track for a variety of reasons. And if that is true, that does mean that Ferrari has a chance. However, it does sort of feel like someone has a Charles Leclerc doll specifically somewhere and is just stabbing the shit out of it at least once or twice a year.
Making it sit forlornly on sand dunes.
That man looked so sad and beautiful. Like, it was unfair how handsome he looked and how sad he was.
Keyword.
It is true. In my saddest days and darkest moments, I look like a mess, not like that. So, shout out to him for you got that going for you, Charles. All right, Deepti, what do you want to watch in this race?
I want to know if Red Bull is going to come to a calling to Isaac Hadjar if he does well again. And I know they told Yuki that he can do the rest of the races at Red Bull, but you know what? We don't trust anyone there. And may they go back on their word if Isaac does super well again? Is Isaac going to continue and build the momentum? We shall see. But basically, yeah, what are they going to do? How close is Isaac coming to a Red Bull seat? He shouldn't take it, but how close is he?
That's the key, right? Should he take it? I think there's already been reports out that he'd be hesitant to join the main Red Bull team next year. And I think that's right, even though the regulation change maybe makes it a little less daunting. And as we know, one of the things that Red Bull has done since Christian Horner's been gone and Laurent Mekies is there is been like, all right, let's get the cars closer in spec as they get updated and new parts are fitted to the car. Not only does Max get them first, which you would expect for a number one driver, but all the spares are his too. So you end up, if you do that over the course of a season, it doesn't take many races before one of the cars is 2 or 3 specs down in some parts of the car, whether it's underfloor, front wing, rear wing, whatever. You end up having that issue, and sometimes that's the flaw. And I think Checo said something as well to that effect. So not only is the car hard to drive, you're also driving a much older version of that car for that second driver. They're trying to change that. Having said that, I still don't think that second Red Bull seat, I think it is cursed. I told specifically, Yuki, don't do it. Don't do it, my guy. Don't do it. And it has been poor. He did score points for the first time in a while last week. But yes, Deepti, he should have listened. Meg, do you have a read on this Red Bull situation and whether if Isaac keeps doing well, should he go to Red Bull maybe in the next year? Or maybe should he self-tank?
Helmut Marko, get a job. Stay away from him, girl.
Right.
Listen, Isaac, you have such joy in your eyes. You are so fun. You have been our revelation on TikTok this year, and they will suck the joy out of you. Alex Albon is the closest to you in personality, and that man battled from hell and back and now has brought his joy back into his life. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. And the hard part is, and on one hand, you're like, all right, Christian Horner's gone, and he seemed to be an antagonist in a lot of this. Notoriously, Pierre Gasly was out because of his arguments with Adrian Newey. Newey's not there anymore. But it is like our beloved Charlie XCX. It is still rotten down into the core from all the apples that came before. And so, as long as Helmut Marko is still there, I just can't, in good faith, tell any driver that they should sign up to be flogged.
Yeah, this is absolutely. There are some established positions of this podcast, and fuck Helmut Marko is absolutely on the list of the. Yeah, on like it's on the stone tablet of this podcast.
Collection of Chelsea, Arsenal, Real Madrid, Liverpool, United fans can't agree on anything, but we agree on fuck Helmut Marko.
Correct. Absolutely. All right. Deepti, that is something that's very interesting to watch. I mean, Hadjar did just have a podium, so I'm fascinated to see what he will do kind of to follow that up. Obviously, another podium. It's not realistic. He only got that one because Lando's car blew up. But I think he was still held on to that fourth place and qualified very well. So trying to see what he can do in this race is actually going to be quite fascinating. All right, here's mine. Before we get to our predictions, hear me out, okay? I know this isn't likely, but maybe McLaren struggled just a little bit. That car has looked like it has. I don't know what's above an F1 car in terms of like speed and balance and everything else, but it looks like that. It looks like it has evolved into something greater than what most of the other F1 cars are, because there's just no touching that thing. So even if it comes down a little bit, maybe it makes things a little bit more interesting. And the only reason I say it might be this track is because of all of the straights, because of how much of it is just a straight up full throttle situation in terms of and low downforce. McLaren's advantage has been making it take those corners much faster, much tighter, have a lot more grip than other cars. And that, while important for the chicanes, it's not the majority of the track. The majority of the track, you're trying to get that car straight and pointed so it can vroom up and down straights. And that's really what you're doing. You're just trying to angle it perfectly so you can get the maximum speed on a straight as possible. Obviously, going around the corners efficiently helps, but I'm interested to see if this track, given its layout and how much of an outlier it is, if that is something that helps maybe level things out and maybe makes things more interesting in qualifying or even the race. I'm not sure. Do I expect it? No. But if it was going to happen anywhere, it's probably going to be this track, because all the rest of them that are left pretty much will require fall into the strengths of what that McLaren car has shown. Deepti, am I talking nonsense, or do you see maybe this might happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I think just because they're just so fast that I feel like it doesn't matter. Like, all the cars will come with pretty much the same setup for this track, because there's really only one kind of setup you can do because of how it's like how simplified it is almost. And because of that, I feel like when they're all when that variable is taken away and that's a constant, McLaren just has the speed, and there's like other parts of it where I don't know. It's hard to say that anything will really take them down besides like stuff they can't control, like an oil leak or like the engine failing. So I don't really see it, but I mean, I'd honestly be here for it because it's chaos.
Okay. I hear you, and I appreciate your gentle no. You're talking nonsense. I gave you that as an option, and you chose the other option, which is to be kind about it. And thank you so much for that. But I will also say, though, that when I mean like maybe bring them a little bit closer, Max got third place on the grid, and he was nearly 4/10 down at Zandvoort. Right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
maybe we're talking a 10th, maybe 2. I don't know,
Okay.
just a little bit closer.
Yeah, sure. I think that can happen. Yeah, I don't think it'll be enough to like knock them down, really outside of the podium, or even like top 5 for sure. But yeah, if I think it could even it out in the sense that like more than just Oscar and Lando could be fighting with each other. Like, there'll be more drivers near each other, and there could be more actual racing between more than just the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, if we have another situation, maybe like we had last year, except maybe it's a Mercedes or maybe it's even a Ferrari gets in between the McLarens, that could make things
Yeah.
very interesting. So just trying to
And
give
it really
people some
comes
hope.
down to, I think, like qualifying obviously is gonna be really important for this one. And then we said like that first turn. I think after that first lap, that's what will rule the rest of the race. Obviously, there's going to be like strategy involved, 1 stop, 2 stop, etc., whatever. But it's really, I think, qualifying in that first lap, and that's where we saw most of the like change and stuff happen last race as well. And that's where like the lockup was. So that took one person out, and then an unexpected overtake, and yada yada. So it could happen for sure.
Meg, do you believe that the reality that I've attempted to paint is ridiculous? Or are you gonna be nice and letting me down, or harsh? What are your thoughts?
No, I'm on the Delulu train with you, André. I will say, the one thing that we haven't really talked about is what is the mindset change now that Oscar is so far ahead, and does that push Lando to do reckless shit? Does it push him to push too hard? And that is my hope. Not because I want downfall, but because I think it would make for more interesting racing to have somebody really pushing for it. On the flip side, does that make Oscar more conservative? My thing is, like, they can tell Oscar to be more conservative, but that man does not really seem to care what they say. I mean, he follows team orders, but I think that he's still going to push for it. He still wants the wins. It's hard to turn off that part of your brain. My guess is he will not do anything super risky, and that might lead Lando to have to do something risky to stay in it.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to find where I saw it, but Lando was quoted saying basically he's like, yeah, obviously this changes things, and like the gap is a lot bigger, but he's like, in a way it puts more pressure on me to perform, but he's like, in a way it's almost too much of a gap that I don't really care, and I'm just going to go for it. So he is just going to, he's like, yeah, I have nothing more to lose at this point, so I will just try. So does that mean like he might go too far and it could be even worse for him? But I think, that's the risk he is willing to take, and he needs to show that he can take that, and he will take that. So that's a good point. I guess it's truly like do or die for him at this point. So that could be fun. Whether or not it may ruin just like the rest of his season, or if where and when, if something happens, if it like could also affect other drivers, or it could affect Oscar, we don't know, but that is something to look forward to or look for.
Yeah, I actually think this really helps Lando out. I think the pressure is off. I think if he was having to get closer and like chip into that, like just like we saw last year with him chasing down Max, there were some mistakes. There were some times where he struggled in wheel-to-wheel races against Max. He pretty much lost every single one, which obviously it's Max. But now you see how the performance variance in that car and somebody else who can drive it just as quickly, like Oscar, he doesn't have those problems. If Max gets ahead of him, he says, okay, cool, give it 3 or 4 laps, maybe 5 laps, and I'm ahead of you, or I'm going to defend my position, when I'm ahead of you. I'm going to dive down. I know exactly what you're going to do, and I'm going to hold it, or I'm going to take it right back if you take it from me, right? Like, Oscar's been very, very good in his wheel-to-wheel racing, in his qualifying, in his race pace and everything. And so I think if Lando had to find ways within those little margins to be a little bit better than Oscar as the races kind of wind down, and he had to pick up like 7 points here, 4 points here, 3 points here, whatever, I think he was going to really push himself into a mistake, whereas now he can just be like, So he has the built-in excuse, like, oh, well, my engine had a problem. Like, that's how I lost this just championship. That's it. Not the fact that I didn't battle valiantly and get myself close, or I made a lot of mistakes. I think it's all for him just going to be like, well, it was out of my hands. And honestly, that might make him even more dangerous. Who knows? Be interesting. All right. Anything else to say before we get to our predictions? All right, then. Prediction time coming. Okay, here we go. Prediction time. We love to do this mainly because I like torturing my co-hosts after the race on the reviews that we do, which usually ends up to just self-torture because my predictions are also wrong, but whatever. We're going to do our podium predictions, first, second, and third. Kyle has Max winning the race. He has Oscar second and Lando third. Very interesting. Donald has Lewis Hamilton winning the race, Charles Leclerc second, and Oscar third.
With a note
yeah.
that Delulu is got a population of 2, which is both Donald and I. And that is because I said Charles first, Lewis second. And then because I want to throw the Italians a bone, Kimi Antonelli, welcome to the podium, my friend.
You know what? I want to live in your world. I don't think I'm going to, though.
I want y'all to know the reason I'm like this is because it's college football season again, and I'm going to crash out so hard over the Auburn Tigers that I just have to believe in something, even if it's delusional.
I mean, fair
enough. I also feel like you were doing this before the college football season, but, I'm not going to call you on that.
It's just in my bones is what I'm saying, André. I've been an Auburn football fan since the day I was born, and if you've only watched them in 2013, just know that the kick six is not the first time we've done something exceptionally wild.
For me, I didn't write it in the doc yet because I couldn't decide. And I'm like, honestly, I'm getting a little bit like bored of myself just predicting Oscar and Lando 1 and 2 in some way. And so I want to go kind of like way out of left field and bring back one of the predictions that I said way back earlier in the season.
Are you going to do it? Are you going to do the
I'm
thing?
going to do it.
Yes!
I'm going to do it. But, okay. One, I think a McLaren is still going to win. Although I would love for it to be a Ferrari, obviously. I think a McLaren's still going to win. I can't actually really decide who it's going to be, but I'm going to give it to Lando. I think, like we said, he has like nothing to lose now, and I think he'll bounce back. So Lando P1. I'm going to say Ferrari P2. So I'll do Charles. I think Charles has been a bit faster than Lewis. Plus, Lewis has that 5-place grid penalty, so we'll see what happens with that. So Lando P1, Charles P2, Alex Albon, Williams P3.
Yes, there it is.
Yes.
I'm going to go Williams.
Deepti, welcome to Delulu Island, my friend.
Population 3, just a different kind of Delulu, but hey, it qualifies. You count on the census. Amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. I wondered if you were ever going to do it again, given that they haven't looked great. But Albon had a very, very, what was it, P15 to P5 last weekend?
15 to 5. And to be honest, like Carlos Sainz wasn't having a bad race either until like a little incident. So I think this could be the weekend.
Love it. I love it. I would love to join y'all on Delulu Island, but I think I'm going to be very boring and go Lando 1, Oscar 2, and probably, you know what? I'll be half Delulu. I'll do Charles 3rd. I think he can do that. I think the Mercedes are going to still have that problem where they cook their rear tires and can't really do especially if somebody decides to do a one-stop, like if Charles does that again. I think the McLarens can still pass him, but I don't think the Mercedes is going to be able to do a one-stop. So they're going to have to do 2, and they will be slower. So, yeah.
Welcome to your timeshare on Delulu Island.
Yeah.
I love the visit from time to time. It's lovely. All right, now let's predict the constructors battle. We predict who will have the most points leaving the weekend and who will have the least. Caveat, you can't choose the team who already has the most points or the team who already has the least points. I say this as a quick nudge to...
I know. I realized as we're sitting here, I was like, Jesus Christ, I put Alpine, didn't I? So we'll be...
You sure did, but it's fine. Well, I'll ramble while you think of another team. Kyle's prediction is Red Bull most points. Interesting. His podium has Max winning, so perhaps that is why. His least points is Aston Martin. He says no way Lance stumbles his way into points this weekend because there will be no weather, no rain, no nothing for him to capitalize on. Donald has Ferrari most points and least points Haas. Interesting. Deepti, who you got?
I'm not sure about the math on this, but I'm still going to go with Williams as most points. If both of them do well, that'd be great. And then least points, I have Aston Martin.
Fair enough.
All right. Delulu Island, it's going to be Ferrari. I think the downside is that my dear friends Haas, I think you had a great time last week. Ollie Bierman, you looked very happy kissing your girlfriend. I'm happy for you. I think it's going to be bad.
Other point. Can I make a bold prediction? Again, this
Please.
might go against like the math might not work out with how many places actually get points. But my bold prediction is that are there 6 rookies? 5 out of the 6. I'm gonna not include Franco Colapinto, but I think the other 5 rookies will score points.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, so a lot of vroom for the rookies. I'm here for it. I love it. And a bold prediction out of nowhere. I'm here for it. We should include, I was going to include a bold prediction segment, but I feel like a lot of F1 podcasts, and one in particular, they do that. And so I've decided to do something a little bit different, but whatever. I always welcome rogue bold prediction.
Yeah, let's do rogue stuff.
Yeah. I've got Ferrari most points and least points. I've got Aston Martin. They didn't look good last weekend. Lance Stroll basically stumbled into points due to disqualifications and DNFs and whatnot. So, well, not disqualifications, I guess, just DNFs. And so I don't think that, I think they're pretty much done with that car. Adrian Newey's given them as many tips on a little napkin as he's going to, and what they have is what they have right now. We'll see if I'm wrong. Okay, let's do our predicted Zoomy and Gloomy Boys. These are basically who's going to have a good overall weekend and who's going to have a poor overall weekend relative to expectations. So obviously not who's going to win and who's going to finish last, but just who's going to be a sad boy and who's going to be a happy boy. Kyle says Zoomy He's got Yuki Tsunoda as his Zoomy Boy. He's got a lot of faith in Red Bull this weekend. Interesting. Gloomy Boy, he has the Tifosi. He said peak toxic boyfriend activities are happening. So there we go.
He
We've
knows.
lured him in. We're luring him in slowly. I appreciate it. Good. Donald says his Zoomy Boy will be Lewis channeling Niki Lauda in the old school livery. Like I said, Donald, I want to live in your world. Gloomy Boy, he says Ocon channeling his Lance Stroll. Right? Why would you say that, sir? He might have to we might have to we need a penalty points system like they do with their points on the license. We need a penalty points license or system for this podcast. So I feel like that's at least 3 or 4 points.
You know
right
that
there
meme that's like the horny dog goes bonk? What is the opposite of horny dog? Disappointed red panda. Disappointed red panda bonk.
Fair enough. Yes, absolutely. And then penalty points. So yeah, Donald, you have 3 penalty points. I've declared it right now. Megan, you're predicted Zoomy Boy. You're predicted Gloomy Boy.
In classic myself fashion, I'm going off script, and I know these are supposed to be about the races, but you guys already know what I'm going to say. So instead, I'm going to talk about things that made me happy in the F1 world this week and things that were less happy. Thing that made me happy, Daniel Ricciardo, vague Instagram posting, something to do with Ford Racing. Is it truck racing? Please, dear God, yes. I hope. It's probably not. But how fun would it be to see Daniel Ricciardo wearing a cowboy hat with some bad facial hair, doing a bad Southern accent? I would be in. So Zoomy is Daniel Ricciardo, hopefully coming back to racing in some capacity. Gloomy Boy.
I'm sorry. I don't
No,
mean
that's
to
okay.
cut off your Gloomy Boy because I think it's important to get there. But also, the last photo I saw of that man looks like he hasn't shaved since he quit
True.
F1. So truck racing feels about right.
And I just think, Bottas got to lean into himself. I think Daniel should get to fully lean into himself. And you know what? Truck racing is the way to go. If you haven't looked up some old F1 history, please look up Kimi Räikkönen doing truck racing, because it was some of the funniest shit I've ever seen. Just a man taking it way too seriously and yelling in his American Finnish accent. Daniel Ricciardo is the antithesis of that, so that'll be incredible. Gloomy Boy is not something that's actually that sad, but sweet Isaac Hadjar broke his trophy last week and then apparently handed it to his team and has no idea where it is. He is confident that they are working on fixing it, but he very sweetly, when he was being interviewed, was like, I don't know, it's somewhere. I trust my team. They're good people. So Isaac, I'm sorry, buddy. I don't think you broke it. I think it was broken already. It didn't look like you held it that bad. And it just kind of collapsed. So hopefully they give you one with a lot more super glue and you enjoy, because that was such joyful experience last week. Sorry. Ooh.
It was tremendous content. And hopefully they do have it and get it fixed and get it back to him. And hopefully Helmut Marko isn't at a pawn shop trying to figure out how much it's worth. Deepti, speaking of, here's your Gloomy Boy.
My Gloomy Boy, I'll go right to him, is Helmut Marko. And why? Because, he'll take credit for all of Isaac's success, but I will not ever forget what he said about Isaac after that first race in Australia. So, like we said, 10 toes down, fuck you, Helmut Marko. And also about Gabby Bortoleto. And like I said, I think he's going to score points as well. So, for the both of them doing well, that's a gloomy weekend for Helmut Marko. And then on the other hand, Zoomy Boy, back to Williams for me. And I think Carlos Sainz, he is due for something good. Please just get him something. This season has been a load of nothing. Just want him to do well.
Fair enough. And I'm going against some of the earlier Haas hate for my Zoomy Boy, and I'm saying Ollie Behrman. That boy likes to just zoom.
That boy zooms, I tell you.
He just be zooming. So I really appreciate it. I think he's going to appreciate this race. So I think he's going to do very well at this race. His biggest problem has been qualifying. He should be fine in terms of the car. He's got a Ferrari engine. He doesn't have to worry about a ton of those corners. Obviously, got to get them right. But I think just straight up, pure straight line speed, he seems to really come into his own. So I think he's going to have a good weekend. He's going to have a poor weekend. I'm going to go ahead and cheat. I'm going to say Lance Stroll. For reasons that I mentioned about Aston Martin already having a poor race, I just think that again, he wants to dance, and I don't know why they just won't let him dance. Apparently today they asked him if about a rumor that I didn't hear, so maybe somebody else just made it up and decided to ask him to get a soundbite, but asked him if he plans on retiring, and he was like, "No, I never said that. I don't have that plans on doing that anytime soon." I'm like, you don't? You don't have any plans on doing that anytime soon? Interesting. I don't.
Are you sure?
You doth protest too much, in my opinion.
That's that subliminal messaging.
Yeah,
Are you sure
exactly.
retirement?
Right. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see it for Aston Martin this weekend. So we will see. Okay, that's predictions done. That's your track characteristics and history done. It's everything done. You're prepared for the race. So let me tell you when to watch it. Free Practice 1 is Friday at 7:25 a.m. on ESPNU and ESPN Deportes. Free Practice 2 is a much kinder time for us over here. 10:55 a.m. Eastern Time is when that is on ESPN2 and ESPN Deportes. Free Practice 3 is very early on Saturday, 6:25 a.m. Oh dear. Yeah, ESPN2, ESPN Deportes. But Grand Prix qualifying is at 9:55 a.m. on Saturday. ESPN2, ESPN Deportes. That will be excellent. And the Grand Prix, maybe you'll have to be up a little bit early, but also the WSL comes back. I believe the Frauen Bundesliga comes back. So many European women's soccer leagues come back, so you might be awake already. Sunday at 8:55 a.m. On ESPN2 and ESPN Deportes. Watch the full race. If you miss it, there is one replay Sunday at 7 p.m. on ESPN News. Meg, Deepti, any last words, but that sounds brutal.
Well,
Forza Ferrari. Forza.
if the Dutch come to get me, I just want to say Delulu Island has been great with all of you. André and I may not be friends once the WSL season starts, so
Yeah. It's a possibility, strong possibility. We'll see. But until then, for Deepti and Meg, I'm André. Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom. Vroom, vroom.